first article that we're going to be talking about is the shifting powers in the tech industry. The shifting powers in the tech industry, and what does that mean for you all? What does that mean for you? Okay, let's jump over to it. Let's jump over to it. All right, guys, the balance of power is shifting in the tech industry, and what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? Does that mean that you're not going to have all the perks that you once have? Does that mean that you're not going to be getting paid, the big salaries as you once did? Does that mean that remote work is no longer going to be a thing? You heard that Elon Musk said, I want you guys back in the office. And if you guys don't get back in the office, you might as well quit. Get out of here. You heard Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, or Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, tell his folks, some of you folks shouldn't be here in the first place. Is the powers shifting? Okay, this is a CNN article by my brother Ben that he sent me, and I'm going to hit on this because I thought it was a fantastic article. So you got to think about it, guys. For much of the past decade, they're saying tech companies have showered their corporate employees with money, lavish perks to attract and retain their talent in the hyper-competitive industry. That dynamic only kicked into overdrive the past couple of years with the pandemic. 2020, 2021, parts of 2022. You got to think about it, guys. Before the pandemic, life was good. Pandemic happened. Everything shut down for a bit. Tech companies, stock went through the bottom. It hit the bottom. Next, it did a significant, or it had a significant recovery in a V-shaped type, or matter of fact, it wasn't even a V-shape. It was like a check mark, right? It's like a slight little dip and then a boom, right? All the tech companies, whether it was Zoom, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, all these companies just made a whole bunch of money, passing out perks, all sorts of stuff. Stock market went through the roof in the tech industry and all, right? Whether it was in medical tech, device tech, HP, Dell, all of them, because everybody needed to work from home. Everybody needed a computer and so forth, right? Well, that fueled a boom in the tech industry for products and services. People are getting paid. I'm making a whole bunch of money. I'm telling you like this, I'm closing deals easier than I've ever had in my life in 2020 and 2021. Why? Because of the relationships I built over the years. And they said, okay, well, Antoine, I don't want to work with any other people. We can't talk to people. So I'm going to work with the people that I know and who I trust. So you get to sell. That's how I was able to make some good money in sales, right? But the hiring was off the charts. The salaries were off the charts. A lot of times too high or out of range, where companies would hire 4 or 5 people for a sales position when they really only needed 2. You think about Coinbase, right? They hired a whole bunch of people, and all of a sudden they're starting to rescind offers and fire people now. But the situation has started to cool as the tech industry and the broader economy have been hit by the perfect storm of inflation, rising interest rates, fears of a recession, and Russia's war in Ukraine. And wave of tech companies that have been aggressively hiring, from Netflix, Coinbase, have announced layoffs in the recent weeks. Many others are also moving to cut costs. Uber, Lyft, Snap, Twitter, Apple, all planning to slow hiring. They're all planning to slow the hiring, guys. They're not going to hire as many people. They're going to do much more due diligence, they're saying, in the interview process. The interview process is going to take a little bit longer, guys, is what they're saying. So, guys, I'm not telling you to jump ship. I'm not telling you to stay put. I'm just saying do your research whenever you decide to be exercising your options. Whenever you decide to exercise your options on the market and see how much money you can get, just know we are in a bit of a difficult, or not a difficult, but a different time than we were in 2020 and 2021. Okay? We are in a bit of a different time than we were in 2020 and 2021. In 2022, the government, right, is jacking up interest rates to slow down the inflation. Inflation is high. So, of course, tech companies and most other companies are starting to tighten their belt straps, getting rid of the fat, not bringing on as many people, telling people to kick rocks if you suck, telling people, to get your ass back in the office. And people are saying, God, I got to get back to the office and drive an hour each way. Nah, I got to look for another job. So what other people are saying as well. You're telling me I need to get back to the office. I don't want to go back to the office. I don't want to go back to the office, so I'm going to find another job. God damn. All right. So I think it's back to some realistic numbers, describing the current reduction as returning to the pre-pandemic levels. I think the correction was going to happen and it had to happen. And now we just know or don't know how long it's going to last. So things are going to go back to 2019 time, guys. 2019. Now, don't get me wrong. Tech is still metro booming in 2019, 2018, and so forth. So I am still encouraging you all to go towards tech if you aren't there yet. For some tech workers, that can mean whiplash, not just in how easy they can secure a high-paying job, but also how much leverage they have with management for pushing specific workplace conditions. No longer can you really say, I want to work from home. They may not allow that to happen. Okay, as before, when in 2020 and 2021, you can use that as leverage for getting a job, right? They wanted you. You can say, okay, well, I work home full time. I'm going to work from home for full time. And you can negotiate higher salaries. During the tech boom of the past decade, competition for employees created a Disney-esque set of experiences, expectations in the high-tech companies. Prominent Silicon Valley venture capitalist Bill Gurley, an early investor in Uber, wrote in a recent Twitter thread, for employees that have only known this world, the idea of layoffs or cost cutting is straight up hearsay, he added. So, guys, what's happening now? What is happening now? The demand for tech and knowledge workers is still global, and there's still a shortfall, Hutchinson said. So I think that workers that don't want to go back into that environment aren't going to go into that environment. So you got, companies now starting to look into the global pool. They're starting to look into the global pool now. Global pool of what? Talent. So a lot of tech companies, they really hired and focused a lot of their tech work into the United States. Now that the world has gone global and remote, they can hire into low-cost areas. India, Ukraine, Russia, Malaysia, Australia, wherever it is. They can hire remote workers to get the work done now without paying these crazy salaries. There's also going to be some bit of a shift for companies now, and they're going towards contract workers more. Contract workers more. Because one, a lot more flexibility. They don't have to worry about all the extra benefits and so forth. So the tide is shifting at this point in time, guys. The tide is shifting. So we saw candidates take offers at one point in time. You guys remember this. I did an article on this. At one point in time, tech was metro booming so well that people were accepting offers and ghosting the employers. They were ghosting the employers. Damn! They would say, okay, well, you know what? I'll take the $150,000. They would go and get the laptop and keep the laptop and not show up. That's what people were doing in 2021 and 2020, because I remember doing articles on it. I'm like, who is doing this sort of stuff? They were looking to hire so many people. Now, that's not the case. That's not the case, right? That's not the case. With the change in the economy, with the seat belts and belt straps getting tightened, it may not be as easy. So the take for you guys is this, okay? It's not going to be as easy as it was, but continue down the path, learn your skills. You won't have anything to worry about. you won't have anything to worry about. If you have the skills, you can sell yourself, you can build relationships, you're going to continue to be employed and highly paid. But if you're just jumping ship, to just try to get some extra money, you know, you're making 150, now you want to make 170, all of a sudden you just feel like you just want to jump to another company, it's not going to be as easy to get hired anymore. That is what this article is saying. You may not be the best candidate for these companies anymore. You may be too expensive as well. You may be too expensive as well. So just think about all of these factors as you make your decision to switch companies or which companies that you're going and seeking to try to work for. Ask questions while you're in the interview process. Ask questions while you're doing the prospecting of the companies that you work for. What's happening? What are you hearing inside the company? Are they still allowing people to work remote? Is that going to be a change? What's the CEO's thought process on that? Because you don't want to work for a company, all of a sudden, you get hired, you're working remote, and all of a sudden, the CEO comes back with a mandate that everybody needs to be in the office. They may not be in the best interest for you and your family. So do the research, guys. Do the research, understand what it is that you're getting into before you make the switch. Before you make the switch. The tide is turning. It's no longer the employers or the employees in a position of power anymore. It's now the employers. You see the layoffs that's been happening. Meta, Mark Zuckerberg said, some of you guys shouldn't be here in the first place. Elon Musk says, we're going to make you guys quit. If you're not showing up to the office, you don't need to be here. If you're not spending 40 hours in the office, you don't need to be here. Voluntary attrition. Voluntary attrition. You don't like your working situation? Go. You can't meet the demands of being in the office 40 hours a week? Go. Find another job. Now, that would really suck if you came to Tesla, your dream job, and all of a sudden, you built this life around working remote. Now you got to be in the office. That really sucks. That really sucks. But what I would say is you should have known this is the kind of guy that you're dealing with when you're working at an Elon Musk company. You should have known. Do your research, guys. Do your research.